Hello everyone, my name's FlareBlitzed here, and welcome back to this not so saddest okie dokie visual novel possible Yuri adventure on National Park ghouls. We're going to stick with the Yuri instead of the iron ghouls. Okay, let's see how our adventures pan out today.
I'll be right there to tuck you in. Might even tell you that story about the swallow you like so much.
Okay, what a way to start this episode, for goodness sakes. Okay. Maybe I should not think like that.
Swallow story? I don't remember that one.
Oh, bird swallow, as in like a swallow from Pokemon, or just a swallow bird. Okay. For a moment, Yosemite freezes. Then she shakes out a chuckle.
No, of course. Why would you?
Leading her by the hand, Yellowstone pulls Xeon along the bathroom, or to the bathroom. Pup trots along behind him. When the door shuts, Yosemite turns back to me. Yes, me. Her posture stiffens, perfectly straight and all business as she walks over to me.
You alive?
Yeah, roughly, I think. She towers over me like a giant... whatever that is. I feel her footsteps vibrate beneath me as she gets closer.
Just leave me alone!
Yeah, leave us alone. I crawl to the nearest corner and hunker down, using one of Xeon's fallen branches as a shield.
Relax. I'm not actually going to eat you, or whatever you think I planned on doing.
Okay, Yosemite, yeah. How we can trust you is another question. I hold a branch at her, it skims past her shoulder.
I don't care! Just go!
A lump catches in my throat, yeeks. I look around at a mess that's been made, the shrieks of water on the floor, the tossed away gun and the open cabinets. I take a look at the whole cabin, small and homey, but I still know what it's really for. It's a purgatory. A sanctuary to clean me of any lingering pride. This is my punishment, and if that's the case, then maybe it's not actually a purgatory. Maybe it's actually hell. I bring my head to my knees and keep it there.
Hey, are you okay? I'm sorry about that stunt she pulled. Yellowstone always gets too excited for her own good.
I think you're part of the problem as well, Yosemite. Her voice softens, sounding more like she's talking to Xeon than a foolish mortal.
Just leave. Please.
I swallow back the emotion, but my voice still
I
cracks.
just want today to end. I'm tired.
She swoops down in front of me.
Well, you're in luck, because I have a truce to propose.
Really? I look up from my knees and sniff. Yosemite is inches away from my face. She gives me a gentle grin. Sorry.
I'm listening.
Get right down to it. We're exhausted too. It's been a long day for us. So how about we let you sleep here for the night, and then, in the morning, you can call your supervisor and send us on our way.
Send you on your way? Okay, I thought it'd be the other way around.
You think I'm dumb enough to fall for that? You'll murder me in my sleep.
In the time it would take to strangle you, I could read half of an entire book. Why waste my time with it? Besides, wouldn't you rather not have 3 trespassers wandering the park at night?
Mm-hmm. She's not wrong. I have the campground to think about too. If they started causing trouble with campers, then this could spiral even further out of control.
Look, just take the olive branch. I'm trying to play nice.
Okay, Yosemite. After you tried to scare us earlier, now you're trying to play the nice card? I think about it for a moment. How I might wake up being smothered by a pillow. How I might not even wake up at all. Or if I do, how they might not even be here at all. But it's dark and late and my brain is slush and fog. So I humour her.
I'm not going to get a bullet to the face while sleeping, am I?
Only Neanderthals use guns. I think you're proof enough of that.
Thanks. It's an insult, but she chuckles. It's not very funny to me. I think again.
And I get the bed?
Her joking smile is stripped away, she sighs.
I guess there are sleeping bags around here we can use. So what do you say? Do we have a deal? Or is this night going to get even longer?
She's trying to play nice, but I don't know. I think ultimately she tries to mean good this time around, but unfortunately our introductions were not nice. She wanted us to leave, and now she's trying to be the one that kind of keeps us in. She extends her hand, and for the first time I notice her ears poking out from under her hair. Both are slender and pointed, with tips as sharp as daggers. I don't know who these people are or even what they are, but I do know that I need some damn sleep. I grab her warm hand and she hoists me onto my feet.
You've got yourself a deal, but you're out of here first thing in the morning.
Thanks. That sounds like a plan. Cabin fever! Achievement unlocked. A warm wetness slopes against my cheek. Humid breath sticks to my face. My eyes cross open and drift to the edge of my bed. With his front paws perched onto the comforter, Pup continues breathing in my face. His wild tongue dangles below his jaw. Hello, Pup.
Can't seriously be morning yet.
I know. I've not had enough sleep. I've barely had any sleep at all. He pushes himself off the bed and scampers away, sliding across the floor like an ice rink. Ice rink. Childish giggles fill the room, and the now familiar sound of wings flapping like an overworked engine follows. Zion huffs and puffs her way around the corner. Pup runs behind her. I couldn't have slept for more than an hour. The nightstand clock seems to confirm this, as foggy memories of me glancing between it and the intruders tucked away in the sleeping bags come back to me. 3:30, 3:45, 4:20, 5, and finally 6:30. I felt like Goldilocks if she tried sleeping on the beds and the bears were hibernating in the corner, just testing her luck until she eventually gets mauled. I peeled myself out of bed and draw shut the curtain that divides the room. When I'm done changing into my uniform, I slip back and catch a whiff of something delicious.
Good morning, Miss Eve.
Good morning, Zion. Zion stops playing with Pup to give me a courteous bow. Through the open window, a bluebird flatters in and rests on her shoulder. I only wish I was in bed.
Rise and shine, Eve who works here. Catch all your Z's.
No, Yellowstone. Don't send us into a purgatory of scaring us where we're infinitely falling. Yellowstone peeks out from the kitchen, whisking a bowl in steady circles, while scared a kettle rests on her head.
They must have slipped through my fingers.
Yep.
Or out of your mouth. When you aren't shifting around, you sound like a broken trombone.
Thanks. I glare over at the table. Yosemite is chin deep in a book and sifting through the pages. Pages litter the table, some sprawled out like a shift deck of cards. Others stacked into leaning towers. The cupboard box sits right in the middle, acting as an eye to the storm. Without taking her eyes off the book, she raises a coffee mug into the
Yellowstone. Tea.
Tea?
Just a jiff.
Okay. Yellowstone Power walks over, balancing the bowl in her arms. She tips her head and pours the water. From the kettle to the cup, the process is delicate, like a ballerina bending into the shape of a swan. Nonetheless, through the tattering and tottering, the kettle stays balanced on top of her cone head.
Want me to replace the bag? It's pretty much water now.
Don't be wasteful. There's still some flavor left.
Okay, Yosemite.
Fine.
Yellowstone gives a defeated sigh, the same one I give every time I have to tell someone, yes, you need a permit to fish.
How about you, Eve? I saw you chugging coffee last night. Bet you take a black, huh? You seem like the type of cat who takes a black.
Okay, Yellowstone. There's a pause as I try to get a handle on this stitched together combination of English and slang, a Frankenstein of language.
With a little sugar, actually.
You know what, Eve? I like you already, okay? That's the kind of coffee I like. A black coffee with a bit of sugar.
Dang, thought I had it.
She snaps her fingers as she returns to the kitchen.
Oh well. Hop a squat. I'll get you a cup.
Thank you very much.
Squat a what?
English is, I don't know. Squat a what? Yeah.
She means sit down.
Yay, Zion, what are you doing?
No can do. I have my job to take care of. Patrolling, permits, calls.
Tattling on us.
Her eyebrows bounce up as she takes a sip of her tea.
Priority number 1, I assure you.
I give her a phony smile that lapses into an eye roll. Hope she sees it. She's right though. It completely slipped my mind. I guess when it became clear that they probably weren't going to kill me, my mind started drifting to more abstract questions.
You can do all that later. Just breathe in that fresh morning air for now. I'm making flapjacks. Yay.
I wish that we can take advantage of the situation of eating flapjacks, but we have work to do. Except her quiet cheer doesn't match her solemn face.
Don't worry, cutie. I'm making you a veggie omelet.
Aw, Xion's downtrodden face lights up, hopeful but cautious.
Can you use the mushrooms I picked the other day?
Wow.
I can if you go get them for me.
Yay! With an excited nod, Xion shuffles off to the closet, and where Xion goes, Pop follows. The bird does too.
Remember to wash them!
Yep, wash anything that you use. Yosemite calls out, but neither answer. Xion digs around in the closet. Yellowstone hums to herself, out of tune and off key.
Fine. Don't cry to me when your stomach starts growing fungus.
Yikes, yep. The frying pan sizzles in the background as everyone goes about their morning, sweep up in their routines, while I sweep to the side with not a lot else to do, except fear for my life, and let's be honest, there's not a whole lot left to fear for anyway. I grab my notebook and sit at the table. Since it's round, I have no choice but to face Yosemite. If it bothers her as much as it bothers me, then she doesn't show it. She grabs a blank paper from a wobbling stack and starts scribbling on it, constantly referring back to her book. Showing the middle of a person that tried to run me out of my post doesn't exactly thrill me. Having to stare at them the entire time, even less so. Still, I make an attempt to clear my mind and start jotting down the events from last night, but my uniform is tight and restrictive and squeezes around my joints like a python. My writing is similarly uncomfortable and stiff, reading more like a report to Jessie than a deep emotional expression to Teddy. Not that there's much of that left in me anyway. The assailant exited the closet. The perpetrator wrestled with a gun from me. There are just a few examples. It's accurate, coherent enough to get the information across, definitely, but just dry enough to be, just dry enough to be vague and frustrating. I experienced it, and even I hardly know what happened. Hell, I hardly know what they are. They aren't ghosts, and I'm an idiot for buying that, even for as briefly as I did, but they aren't quite human either, although after their ears and wings and volcano heads, they may as well be people.
Some sugar or sugar?
You referring to me? Yellowstone sits down, a cup of coffee in front of me, the tray of granary sugar still swirling around in it. There's an explosive pop from the kitchen. Smoke plumes around the frying pan.
No! My flapjacks!
Great, that's what happens, Yellowstone. When you're not in the kitchen, things get burned. She rushes over like an overworked waitress at a diner and lowers the heat. And me, I feel like a traveller exploring the cosmos. I found an alien society and everything they do is fascinating how mundane it is.
It's not polite to stare. If we freak you out that much, you can turn around. Or leave. That would work too.
Thanks, Yosemite.
You'd like that, huh? For me to leave you alone so you can just keep mooching off this place.
Yup.
Are you expecting a no? All the other goons always ran off to the outpost down the road as soon as they caught wind of us. Only ever came back if they had to get something. And never alone.
Yikes. Any of that sympathy from last night has evaporated with the steam from her tea. All that's left is a condescending smirk. It drives me insane.
Well, I'm not like the others. Thank God. It doesn't take much to scare the apathy into them.
But not you, huh?
I'm open to suggestions.
I throw back for coffee like it's the nastiest double shot this side of happy hour. The scalding liquid funnels down my throat. Then I surrender to my journal. Yosemite watches me with a focused squint.
What's that? Official report to the head goon.
The lead at the tip of my pencil snaps under the force, leaving a skid mark streaking across the page.
Journal. Sorry to disappoint.
Yep. Her ears twitch at the mention of journal.
What kind of journal? For documenting information? Studies?
Yep, documenting information.
Just a journal. I use it to wring out the last few drips of dams I give. Keeps me anchored to reality.
I look up at her, tracing my way from her black roots to her blue hair, down to the frosted white tips. Her hair looks like a waterfall pouring off a cliff.
And boy oh boy, do I need that.
She deflates, as if I'm the one responsible for sucking out all of the wonder and curiosity in this world.
Suppose I should be proud of you, though.
What are you trying to imply? I keep writing. Don't bother looking up.
After all, how many of you suits actually know how to write?
Wow. Thanks, Yosemite. God damn, I can't help myself.
You think we're dumb?
Yeah,
I think you're uneducated.
I think you are overly delusional, Yosemite.
Look, I'm not wild about my coworkers either.
Glad we're in agreement.
Thanks.
Give us some credit. Or at least give me credit. You know what a school is, right?
Something I assume you didn't go to?
Wow, that's really tough.
No. For me, school was years worth of crap I had to sludge through to even get a sniff.
And was it worth it?
The question is like a splash of cold water to the face. It forces me to decide on whether I want to give the easy answer or the answer that lurks in the back of my heart.
Popular opinion is a giant no. It might be if people cared, but they don't. And even if I thought it was, if those people are the ones I'm protecting this land for, nothing will ever make it worth it.
Yosemite yawns, her face slumped against her cheek in boredom. She returns to her book.
Wow. I was almost expecting something insightful.
Sorry, Yosemite, but we didn't meet your expectations.
Don't like the answers? Don't ask the questions.
Wow, that's a nice answer to that.
It's not the answers that bother me. It's the rotten little mind behind them.
Fine. Lightning cracks between us. We glare at each other in silence. My eyes will roll out of my head before I blink.
You two can duke it out after breakfast. Time to chow down.
Okay, let's see this concoction that you have burned together. Yellowstone swoops in with 2 platters of fluffy stacked pancakes. A thin slice of butter slides across both of them, melting down the sides and mixing them with syrup. I poke at the pancakes with my fork. Is it poison? Wow. Don't say that out loud. It seems safe. In fact, it looks delicious. Like a picture ripped straight out of a menu. Before you get the real soggy thing. Yeah, that's a problem with most advertisements for fast food and any food, really. The food on the menu looks gorgeous. The real thing does not look like what it looks like on the menu of the advertisement. Cutting a pie-shaped sliver off, I dip it into a shallow pool of syrup that accumulates at the sides of the plate. Yeah, why not? If it's poison, at least it's going to taste amazing. I take the plunge. Warm sugar drizzles down my tongue, the rich butter oozes out of the pancakes as I chew. There's a hint of crispiness from the slightly charred rings around the sides of the cake, balancing out the taste of the sugar. It practically dissolves in my mouth. I swallow.
Holy crap.
Holy my! A moan slips out of me, almost a gasp. It would be embarrassing if this wasn't so shocking or delicious. Oh my gosh. Yellowstone giggles.
Like it?
Unable to resist, I dive in for the next piece. I nod as I talk through the food.
Yeah, it's sort of amazing. How did you even...
Yeah,
I'm basically the chef around here.
if you say so, Yellowstone. She beams with a proud smile.
And the maid, and the dishwasher, and the laundry. You could say that I'm a jack of all trades. Master of them, too.
No, jack of all trades means you're a master of none. Although you're adequate to doing lots of different kind of things.
I'll say. What did you even put in this?
Poise.
Trade secret.
If you say so. Yosemite flips to the next page.
It's brown butter.
No fear!
Brown butter. A dark cloud of steam trails out of the opening in her head. I think I smell sulfur. Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, it's delicious.
Yeah. I'll wash down the shock with coffee.
Thanks.
Yellowstone eyes glows to be as large as the platters the pancakes are on.
You really mean that?
Aw.
Thanks?
Yeah. From the devastating events that you took us through yesterday, this surely would be better than that experience. Those pancakes are good. Would she prefer I tell her to... Okay.
Yeah. I was just planning on living off canned sausages while I was here.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Tears creep to the corner of her eyes, a whimper, then a geyser of water erupts from her head.
Whoa.
Holy smokes! I didn't think being complimented would feel so good. You're a good gal, huh?
Wow, what a unique texture this is. When she's angry, it's sulfur. When she's sad, then it's a geyser. The water umbrella's over her. She moves in for a one-armed hug. Not overly fond of hugs or getting my uniform soaked with tears before work or touching. I scoot away my chair.
Ah, that gives me an idea.
What kind of idea would that be? She bounces back like a spring. The whiplash gives me a concussion.
What if, and stay with me here, instead of us leaving or you leaving or anyone leaving, what if we just live together?
That sounds like a very nice idea.
Absolutely not!
Wow, Yosemite really doesn't like Kiev.
Like last night? But every night.
Just give it a think. We already have a solid setup here. We could keep the place nice and tidy while you're wage slaving away all day.
Thanks. I'm too stunned to outright decline with any kind of resolve. Shameless naivety, the kind tied with a bow and given to you, is impossible to answer with harsh realism. It's genuine, and it's familiar, and if the food will always be this good, maybe that idea isn't what, Eve? Is it going to happen? But that's the only thing it is. Remember why you're here. Look outside, look at the land you love, and look at the scavengers that stomp over it. Now remember why you're here.
I'm only here because it's my job. Last I checked, woodland sprites aren't on the payroll.
Are you suggesting that these are all sprites?
The pancakes were good, but I'm still radioing this in.
Yellowstone's excitement is snuffed out like a candle.
Aww, I thought it was a pretty good idea.
It is a good idea, Yellowstone. Yosemite heaves a small sigh of relief.
Stop scaring me like that. I've had more than enough of Miss Misery.
And I've had more than enough of Miss Pottymouth. Before I can bite back, Zion scampers up to Yellowstone with a cutting board. The bluebird from earlier picks up the dried mushroom that lines the board.
Does that mean we'll have to find a new home?
Yes, Zion, that means you'll have to find a new home and scare another patroller. She stares down at the mushrooms dejectedly, but Yellowstone reassures her with a smile.
Don't worry! Yosemite knows a lot of neato places to hide. We can just trust her to take care of us like always.
Okay.
We'll be back soon. She won't last long.
She leans into the table and locks eyes with me.
It's the eyes. They're almost as dull and lifeless as the others.
Wow. Just because you're the only one here with green eyes. I don't give her an inch, remaining flat and unblinking.
Your flapjacks are gonna get dull and lifeless if you don't eat them soon.
Yellowstone shuts Yosemite's book and scoots the platter forward. Like a sponge, the pancake has absorbed most of the butter and syrup. With a futile grasp, Yosemite stretches from the book, but it's just out of reach. She sulks, then stabs the pancake with a fork.
I was reading that? Now I'll have to find my place again.
Yeah, well, maybe just eat the pancakes.
Too smart for a bookmark?
Yes, too smart for a bookmark.
Smarter than you.
We both take a bite out of our pancakes. Between chewing, I give her the fakest, most plastic grin I can manage, forcing the dimples until it hurts so. She does it right back. It's like staring into a twisted funhouse mirror.
It ain't a big dealio. Your brainiac butt has read all those books at least 50 times by now.
Yeah.
It is a big deal. You'd be surprised by how much you don't pick up on the first time around.
Yep, just like a first playthrough of a game. There's a lot of details you won't pick up on the first time around. Her gaze drifts over to Xeon, who is now crouched down to Pup, letting him sniff the mushrooms. A tinge of sadness flashes over her eyes, and for the first time I notice the bags under them.
Or how much you forget.
Too bad Eve isn't sticking around long enough for us to use her credit card. You could have ordered tons more books.
Yeah, not happening.
And groceries. More fresh veggies, please.
I'm sorry, what?
Yosemite sips at her tea and shrugs.
Just be happy you goons are useful for something. They usually cancel the card after the first couple charges.
I try to choke back a chuckle, but it comes out as a snort. This probably isn't the kind of stuff I should condone, but the image of someone like Ernie opening their monthly statement to see an unexpected charge of $600 brings me more joy than it probably should. And honestly, screw Ernie. Tugging at Yellowstone's jacket, Xian raises the cutting board as a reminder.
Omelet. I'm gonna croak from hunger.
Wow. Yosemite winces at croak.
Please stop teaching her your second language.
Yeah. But Yellowstone ignores her. She bends down and takes the board, her expression melting into one of complete adoration as she gushes over Xian.
Sorry. Do you want spinach on it too? Mm-hmm. Don't cook it with butter though. Too much MSG.
MSG.
Huh? You sure? I want you to have enough energy to go hiking with me later.
Okie dokie.
I don't think so. After you're done here, there's a whole lot of cleaning up you have to do.
MSG as in monosodium glutamate?
Give me a break. I just swept the other day.
Okay.
And now the kitchen is a disaster zone. Clean before we leave.
That sounds like a good idea, Yosemite. Grumbling to herself, Yellowstone scooches back to the kitchen.
Maybe things wouldn't get dirty so quick if you actually rinsed your dishes.
Wow.
What was that?
Nothing, Chief.
Don't talk out loud. Sorry, don't think out loud. You know that's a very bad thing to do, and the other person that you're talking about is within hearing distance. Yosemite returns to her book, occasionally picking at her pancakes. When she is positive, Yosemite isn't looking. Yellowstone pokes her tongue out at her. Yikes. It's weird. I wouldn't expect some kind of hierarchy to exist amongst them. But Conehead and the Pixies seem to revere her like a big sister. All that's missing is her flipping through a nature magazine while holding the phone. Girls still do that, right?
Must be pretty gripping if you can't tear yourself away from it for more than 5 seconds.
Book.
It's not. Just some accounts from a miner that passed through these parts a long time ago. But it helps.
Yeah, it helps. Referring to a piece of news article that happened a long time ago.
With your research?
Her brow furrows as she gives me a side-eyed glance. Okay.
Want to tell me how you know that?
You have a folder that literally has research written on it. Wasn't hard to put 2 and 2 together.
Yep.
Look, it does math.
I have no comment on that, for goodness sakes.
It does facial reconstruction too.
She pinches her eyes shut with a groan.
I knew your snooping would be an issue.
Yeah.
Look at your yoga pants in a bunch. I didn't actually see anything.
Stuffed from the pancakes, I lean back in a chair and melt. I don't know how much butter and sugar she put in those things, but my uniform feels like a button might. pop off. Okay, because of how fascinating it is.
Gotta say though, I'm curious what someone like you could be researching.
Yup. Yosemite pushes up against the table. A glimmer of excitement colours her face. Of all things, a glimmer of excitement.
You're curious?
Is one curious about such research? There we go. Excitement clouds into suspicion.
Why?
Just Stam?
I'm just excited and curious. Being so close, I get a good look at her defined, pointed face. No loose skin, no flab, not even puffy baby fat around the cheeks.
Can I get some personal space here? I don't want to catch your personality.
Yeah, that's one thing we don't want to catch of Yosemite. That stubborn nature. Damn it, if I squint hard enough, she's actually kind of cute. She pulls herself away and goes silent.
My curiosity is waning.
Shut up.
These two are opposites and quite alike at the same time, I'm not gonna lie. It's almost like they're meant for each other. Biting the bottom of her lip, she glances back and forth, she sighs, then closes a book.
You see Yellowstone's head?
Yes. Her voice droops into a hearse whisper as she leans in. I do the same.
How could I not?
What does it look like to you?
It looks like a volcano or a cone.
What does this have to do with any...
Just tell me what it looks like.
A volcano? It looks like a volcano.
And can you guess what has a volcano?
Yellowstone National Park, obviously. But volcanoes don't actually look like that.
You're not going to get anywhere with that kind of linear thinking.
She moves on.
And look at Zion.
I do, she hovers in the air, keeping the omelette out of Pup's reach, leaves floating off like autumn.
No, this isn't coyote food. It's not good for you.
You know very well that dogs will eat anything, whether if you think it's meat or vegetable matter.
See those leaves and branches? Pretty lush, right?
Sure.
Remind you of any particular painting?
She points her thumb at the wall. I glance back and admire the painting of Zion National Park, with its deep greens and mix of fiery reds and beiges.
Wait, are you saying...
Starting to get it?
My mind states to be obvious, or skates to be obvious.
Yeah, the three of you like playing dress up. Real cute.
It's amazing how you keep finding new ways to disappoint me. Let's try this again.
I didn't know we were being lectured here. I ignore the snark dribbling out of her mouth. After all, disappointing people is second nature at this point, myself particularly. Yosemite scoots against the table. She points at her face, specifically the freckles dotted across it.
Are you giving me permission to slap you?
I'm giving you permission to learn. Now touch it.
Closing her eyes, she sticks her chin and waits. Like someone expecting a kiss. Well, I start to reach out my hand, but an overabundance of caution keeps me from going any further. What if this is some kind of trick? She tried to scare me away, didn't she? What's stopping her from biting off my finger? Wouldn't be the first time someone has tried that while I was on the clock. I shudder as I remember that man's blistering bloodshot eyes. He had been delirious, sorry. Almost said delicious there, but it's the opposite, it's delirious. Caked in pine needles and mud, with tattered clothes, no telling what he was hyped up on. After Jessie made sure I was okay, she shrugged. It takes all kinds, she said. Yosemite's nose wiggles impatiently. I decide she's probably harmless, and waking up alive is good evidence of that. Even if we've only tossed verbal punches at each other, she was one who offered a truce. That has to mean something. I can't shake the suspicion completely, but I do reach out and brush my hand over her cheek. A gravely and rugged texture scratches my fingertips with her freckles should be. Where her freckles should be. It finally clicks with me. Yeah, there's symbolisms to a natural park. These aren't freckles at all, they're more like scales, or pebbles glued to her. Just to make sure, I sweep my hand up and down her face, between the patches of pebbles. Her soft skin glows a flush pink, wow.
I said to touch it, not to caress it. Jeez.
Well, you're... okay. I grip one of her pebbles between my fingers and tug it. Instead of ripping it off, Yosemite's skin is stretched right behind it. She pulls away. Hints of tears glisten at the corner of her eyes.
You didn't have to be so rough.
Yikes. My mouth hangs open as the confusion bounces around like a tumbleweed in my head.
Is that rock?
Well, it sure isn't costume jewelry.
Mm-hmm. Whining, she soothes her pulsing cheek. I twist around and look at the top painting the pyramid. Limbert Dome. I saw glimpses of it on the drive here. If I stepped outside, I could see it now, and every time I've ever climbed up there, it's been gravely, and it's been rugged, just like her cheek. Most mountains in Yosemite Valley are. I think back to Yellowstone's explanation from last night. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's basically fantasy. But if there's any other explanation, then I can't think of it.
Your Yosemite National Park.
Dear God, did I actually say that out loud? Am I going crazy if that's what's happening? But Yosemite gives a satisfied nod, and I'm convinced that I've taken a one-way trip on a crazy train. I'm riding this locomotive off a cliff. Emphasis on loco.
Now you're starting to get it. Finally.
I try to choke out more words, more questions, but they dissolve into breathery stutters. Yosemite looks on with an amused smirk. Faraway laughter and chatter breaks through the confused silence. From outside I hear the snapping and crunching of twigs and leaves. The voices get louder, past the cabin, then taper off.
Just what are you? What are you really?
Mm-hmm. Yosemite's smirk fades into a frown. Her eyes scan the mess of books and paper and stay there. Her hands grip the table and her nails dig into the wood.
You don't know?
I hardly believe the genuine shock of my voice. I'm not actually buying this garbage, am I?
That's the winning question, isn't it?
She slinks back in her chair, breaking her razor straight posture. She sighs, drawing in a deep breath, but releasing it as a quick puff. Her frown relaxes into a smile. It's a soft smile, the kind of people have when they're nostalgic, or thinking about a family member that isn't around anymore.
Do we not know? Or do we just not remember?
I can do without the cryptic crap.
Yeah, with her enigmatic nature.
It's anything but. I'm telling you what I know. And what I know is that I'm Yosemite. Just like they know how they're Zion in Yellowstone.
Okay.
Okay, sure. But how do you know?
Yeah. How? Or were you just born with it?
How do you know that your stomach rumbles when you are hungry? Did someone have to explain the concept to you?
No, because I just know that.
How long have you known?
I don't know.
Have you always known?
I don't know.
Do you know anything?
If I knew anything, I wouldn't be trying to figure it out.
She shoots up out of her chair and glares down at me. Her voice cuts through the air like a dagger. Oh dear. That's a little too much, don't you think? Her little outburst throws the room into silence. Yellowstone coughs from the kitchen. Pup's tail spikes up in alert. I stare back, pretending to be unfazed, but secretly I'm tense. My muscles flex against my uniform. In the thick of the silence, Zion tiptoes over to the table. She latches onto Yosemite's hand. Her own tiny hand only managing to wrap around 3 fingers. Wordlessly, she gazes up at her with deep, pleading eyes. Yosemite's sharp face softens back to that solemn smile. Her hand engulfs all the Zion's. She strokes her palm and fiddles with her fingers. Zion gives a ticklish giggle.
I have these fragments that pop into my head. Bits and pieces of a language I don't know. Faces I don't recognize, but seem familiar.
Her voice shakes, hovering above a whisper, breaking at the end of words.
And whenever I think I figured it out, and it's on the tip
Excuse
of
me.
my tongue, I forget.
She shuts her eyes tight, as if trying to envision these things herself. Her grip around Zen's hands tighten, but Zen doesn't pull away or even wince.
They're like echoes that ripple further away with each new epiphany. It just gets quieter and quieter. It's so frustrating.
For words strain out of her through gritted teeth.
But if I can figure out just what we are, where we came from, then maybe I can finally remember.
She opens her eyes, and they look older. It feels like she's staring right through me and gazing at a painter's hand on a wall. Hang on, like I'm just another obstacle getting in her way.
So yeah, I don't know anything, but I'm going to.
Well, good for you.
The way she's always staring at me is unsettling. Is it a simmering anger? Reluctant curiosity? I don't know. And if I knew what was good for me, I wouldn't care. I whistle for Pup. He bounces over and in a moment of impossible patience sits at my feet. He looks at me, his sad brown eyes connecting with mine as he licks his chops. Now there's a stare I can care about. I tear off a piece of my leftover pancake, toss it to him. Springing from his hind legs, he leaps into the air to snatch it. It bounces off his nose, and instead of any amazing acrobatic display, he twirls in circles until he finds it on the ground. Bravo. Across the table, Zen stares, pouting.
It's just a treat. It's not gonna kill him.
Indeed. The group of voices from earlier echoes back from outside, rowdier and louder than before. They're a ways away, but I can still pick up on the occasional gratuitous curse and obnoxious laughter. Drunk already, kids. Of course, who am I to judge? A couple more months on this job and I'll be investing in a flask to give my morning coffee the extra kick it needs. Ranger Smith may actually end up being my life model. Praise be to Smith now. Yosemite eyes to win.
Friends of yours?
No, they're not friends of mine.
No. God, no.
I scoff, but it comes off sounding more like a hiss.
A day on the job where I don't have to deal with those hellspawn tracking their carbon footprint in here is a day well spent.
That's what I thought.
She chuckles to herself. Blech. She chuckles to herself. It reminds me of how snide some of my college professors were. Their latte in their hand and their head up there. Okay. She swipes away a strand of sweat that drips down her cheek. Sorry.
And what, pray tell, did you think this time?
That I was wrong about you.
I devote myself to Pub, picking off more pieces of a pancake to give to him. Whatever I can do to make it look like I'm not paying attention to her, but always making sure to keep her within the corner of my eye.
Last night, I could have sworn I saw some conflict swimming around in those dead eyes of yours. Sniffling in the corner, crying about just how tired you were.
Unzipping her jacket all the way, she starts to fan herself, but that slight breeze doesn't cool down my simmering blood. It's like she's trying to roast me until I burn. What gives her the right to pry, to poke at me until I spill my... Okay, I'm not here to be judged.
The only conflict last night was you three. Of course I'd be tired. Why do you care?
Because I'm tired too. Tired of you people prioritizing that ranger image, so people don't realize you're actually hired thugs.
Wow.
You're just one branch on a tree that doesn't even care about you. A bureaucratic arm I'd rather see cut off than fester. You're not here to educate. You're not here to preserve. Not unless preservation looks like a permit. No. You're here to protect the bottom line. To shake people down when they just want to get away from the hell you've created. To make sure there's enough resources intact to vacuum money up when your masters come calling. I've seen your type before. You don't care. Putting on that dumb hat just makes you think you do.
You're wrong. I was different. I actually did care, right? There was never any glory in this. Just a slow descent into misery. Unless that's where the glory is at. Pride for being a glorified security guard that doubles as a janitor, cleaning up the messes of the only people lower on the totem than me. Because the only thing that separates them from me is what? Me caring enough to be miserable for it? But of course, if I'm miserable, that means...
You're right. Maybe I don't.
I bend over and pat Pup's head. He paws at my leg for more, but I stand
Maybe
up.
caring got too hard. Maybe it wasn't worth the pain it caused.
I take several steps, stopping at her chair.
There is one thing I care about, though.
Sweat runs down Yosemite's cheeks in streams. She pants heavy breaths, her chest heaving in and out.
Getting you the hell out of here. I'm radioing this in.
That's right, Eve. Do what you have to do. What you should have done all along. I start from the fossilized radio on the desk, but Yosemite shoots out of her chair. Zeon cowers back.
Go ahead. Do it. Prove to me you're just another...
Did you collapse? Her voice dissolves into breathy air. With a solid thump when I turn around, she's sprawled out on the floor.
Yosemite!
Before I can even connect the dots, Zeon and Yellowstone are already at her side on their knees. Yellowstone grabs a stack of paper from the table and fans her. Zeon squeezes her hand. I race back over and bend a knee. Heat radiates from her like an oven. I press my hand against her forehead. As soon as I touch the skin, my hand burns. I yelp and pull away. It felt like I just touched a skillet and the burn seared through a layer of skin.
A fever?
Zeon shakes her head.
A fire.
A fire? Wait, a fire at the park, probably. Yosemite opens her eyes, glossy and unfocused. Her breath pumps in and out as she fights to get up.
Don't move. You'll make it worse.
It's
Close.
close.
She lets out a pained groan. A small hole burns through her jacket sleeve. Orange embers crisping around the edges. It sizzles like a cigarette being snuffed out. Like a cigarette.
Oh no.
I swing open the door as I rush onto the porch. The faint smell of smoke tickles my nose. Maybe just a campfire?
Not good.
Popping back into the cabin, I snatch my hat and pull it over my head. Yellowstone glances back and forth in compulsive panic, mumbling words of conflict to Yosemite. Zeon snuffs back a few tears, but looks at me with wavering calmness. Her tiny voice cracks a little.
How far is it?
I don't answer. That familiar smoky smell, harsher than a chimney, drifts into the cabin. I'm not sure what's going on, and I'm not sure how they know what's going on. But after these last 12 hours, I'm not taking any risks.
Get her to the couch. And whatever you do, stay here.
But Eve, we can...
I run outside, slamming the door before Yellowstone can finish. As I sprint down the path, sweating away the branches and leaves, my eyes start to burn like they've been open for too long. But no matter how many times I blink, that poking steam doesn't go away. A crowd of voices yell up ahead, all shouting over each other and all scared.
Put it out!
I'm doing what I can. Now stay back and quit crying. What do we tell you, man? You just had to be the rugged mountain man.
I had my suspicions that this was the case. Whenever somebody who is an embodiment of something, like a park for example, falls ill and lets off like a certain substance, like being too hot or something, then that must mean one thing. Something is going down, and in this case, there was a fire at the park.
He gets it. He didn't do it on purpose.
Well, look at this scenery. This scenery is like a hellscape. A patch of blazing red dances on top of a pile of twigs beneath a tree. The fire branches out on both sides like a trail of dynamite, splitting into a short V. The trunk of the tree is blackened with soot. A group of familiar campers only recognize them by their jackets. Stomp on the knee-high flames, all their faces twisted in fear. The one I talked to last night swats his green jacket over it. Like that's going to make any difference now.
What the hell is going on here?
Most of their faces go sheet white, and for a moment they forgot about the fire. The kid with the green jacket just keeps swatting the ground, yet whenever he lifts it back up, the flames climb that much higher.
You! 3 seconds to tell me what happened.
I point at him, and this time he manages to pull himself away. He turns to me, his eyes red and watery from the smoke.
We were...
1,
I thought I put it out.
2,
I didn't mean to.
3.
Get out of the way, before your jacket catches.
I march over and shove him into his friends. He didn't resist, stumbling into their arms like a limp scarecrow.
All of you, get away from here. Back to the campground.
They watched me with wide vacant stares. If I were a truck driver, I'd have mowed them down by now. Wow.
Move it!
All except one nod and start tripping their way through the woods. The kid with a green jacket stares at the glowing fire, his knees quivering. His little girlfriend glances back and cups her hands over. Okay.
Come on, let her take care of it.
He shakes himself out of it, then wipes his eyes as he runs off into the woods. My attention turns to the fire. Stomping on it would just submerge me wrist deep in the blaze. The base of the tree trunks ignites, and the embers float down onto the scattered paths of twigs that make lines for the surrounding trees. I dig my boot into the ground and kick clouds of dirt onto it. Specks of ember are snuffed out, but the fire just remains as tall. Unstrap. Okay. To my wrist, I press the comm button and speak into it. Though, to whoever is listening, it probably sounds more like an anxiety attack. Yes.
To Illuminae Station, this is Ranger Adams. We have a situation behind the cabin post. 1070. I repeat, 1070. Get dispatched to send out a fire unit.
A broken voice cackles through the static. Yep.
To Illuminae Station, do you read me? To Illuminae Station.
I look around and realize just how caged in by these trees I am. No wonder the signal is so jumbled. I didn't notice a fire extinguisher, cabin, and the station is less than a mile away. If I run, I could warn them, but with how quickly this thing is getting out of control, I scan the clearing. Snow is still on the ground, half melted and tossed around in random splotches. It's not a lot, but it could work. I scrape up as much snow as I can, sandwiched together. Clots of black dirt stained white. It feels like dry ice in my hand. I toss it over the fire. Most of the snow melts in a second, in an instant, but a section of the fire is extinguished along with it. For a brief second, relief washes over me, but just as fast it ripped away, the fire flares up, engulfing more of the tree. I wince as the heat kisses the flames inching closer. A forest fire on the first day, wonderful. Taking 3 nervous steps back, I glance over my shoulder. If running to the station is the only way, I guess I have no choice. My legs bend as I take my first giant step, but before I could take another, a shrill voice breaks through the woods.
Eve!
Hello, Yellowstone. Yellowstone launches past the trees and into the clearing. Branches and leaves clung to her clothes. She skids to a stop, her eyes locking onto the fire.
Okay, so that's happening.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Eve! There you are!
She offers a stiff salute.
We're here to help!
What do you mean we are here to help? Her voice is muted, buried under the crackling of the fire.
We?
Descending from above the trees, Zion flaps her wings. She glides down to me, stopping to meet me face to face.
You can't do this alone.
I told you to stay at the cabin.
Miss Eve, if this doesn't get put out soon, there won't be a cabin.
Her usual meek voice rings with a mature clarity, yep, like an untamed weed. The flames shoot up taller, branches look like candle wicks. Smaller flames snake to the surrounding trees, lighting the very soil aflame. I hate to bring non-park personnel to this, but she has a point.
Fine, but as soon as things start looking hairy, I want you to get out of here.
They give hurried nods. Good enough for me. Congrats, girls. You're I don't know how to say that
Gather
word.
up as much snow as you can and dump it on the fire. Dirt works too, but don't give the fire any extra fuel.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Yellowstone can just cry and just unleash a geyser out to put out all the fire. We all scramble to work. Yellowstone and I search for scattered parts of snow. We scrape them up by the armload and drop them onto the fire. The snow evaporated before our eyes. Zion flutters up to the peaks of a tree, shaking any branches that are still coated white. The snow crumbles away, smothering large portions of the flames. It sounds like sizzling bacon, but as helpful as Zion's efforts is, it only puts out the connecting trails of the fire. The second tree cracks as flames spread across the bark, then the next tree. The smoke is harsh and impressive, flying right into the back of my nose and filling my lungs with buckets of burning air. Yeesh. Squinting is the only way to see through the pain. I expect my eyes to shrivel up in their sockets. Through a fit of pained coughs, I call out to Yellowstone and Zion, hoping the two blurry watercolors in front of me are them.
No good. We need to get out. ASAP!
Indeed.
Wait, I have an idea.
Save it. If we stay here, we're toast.
The blur that I'm pretty sure Zion ignores me, turning into the Yellowstone blur instead.
Yellowstone, you know I love you lots, right? Of course I do. Love you lots too. But the fire. I know. Which is why I'm really super sorry for what I'm about to do. Please don't hate me. Huh? How can I ever hate my Earth Inc?
Zion raises up her tiny legs and stomps down on Yellowstone's foot. The snapping of branches and crackling of the fire is enough to disguise the crunching as I hear as Zion digs her heel into Yellowstone's toes. There's a broken whine. The pain is delayed.
Why?
We know what will happen next. A giant geyser will spawn out of this. The high-pitched whine cranks up a frequency, growing as sharp and piercing as a fire alarm. A few sniffs and it dissolves into brawling, shrieking straight into my eardrums. I'll save you and myself from the volume that it will perform. I go from shielding my eyes from the smoke to covering my ears to drown out the crying. The brain-rattling shriek pierces my skull. Water bubbles from the opening on Yellowstone's head, boiling like a pot on the stove. With the explosive power of a gunshot, a geyser of water shoots out of her head, spraying into the air.
Whoa, 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 what?
Yep.
Good. You're doing great. Just keep crying. I'll try.
Yellowstone keeps the long-form sobbing going. The water sprinkles down on me, cooling me off in the midst of a hellish heat. Wait, that's it.
I hear you loud and clear, kid.
I shoot Zion a thumbs up. I have to give it to her. This is a smarter plan than anything I could ever come up with.
Yellowstone, aim for the fire.
Okay.
Sobbing like a child lost in a supermarket, Yellowstone obeys, bowing her head and blasting the geyser of burning trees. Zion latches onto Yellowstone's wrist, guiding the rush of water to the flames. It reminds me of a firefighter aiming a fire hose. The swaying red and orange shrinks as the water splashes down on it. Bit by bit the fire dies down, smoke lighter than the grey plumes that choked the air only seconds ago blankets the clearing with a layer of mist. The roaring of the flames quiet into the snaps and pops of a campfire until all I hear are Yellowstone's hushed whimpers. Her tears in the geyser have dried up, as simple as twisting off a faucet. The three of us hack back our lungs, retreating from the smoke so we can get a better look.
Is it out? Did we get it all?
Yellowstone brushes away the remaining shrieks of tears.
Looks like it.
I scuff the heel off my boot against the dirt, just in case there are any stray sparks.
Yellowstone!
Zion tackles Yellowstone's legs, snuggling her face into her jacket.
I'm so
Wow.
proud of you. You did really good out there. You were So, boss, that's how you say it, right?
No.
Gee whiz, you really think so?
She wraps her arm around Xena and brings her in for a hug.
You did pretty swell out there, too. That was some quick thinking.
No. I crack a smile, and how could I not? We just stopped this whole section of the park from going up in smoke. Also, these two might be adorable. Still, I can't help but shudder at what would have happened if I weren't here. And it's all because of those punks, another group of careless campers. If it's not painting on rocks, it's hunting without a license. If it's not hunting without a license, it's somehow starting a forest fire in the biting cold of early spring. My smile, that small burst of happiness, is short-lived. A glowing sense of duty lights up my guts. As raging as the fire, I start trudging my way out of the clearing.
Miss Eve?
Thanks for the help. But you two need to get back to the cabin.
Where are you going?
To snuff out another fire before it spreads.
Rage stews inside me, burning like a pressure cooker. I storm out of the woods. Pups' howls yelp out of the cabin as I pass it. Of course this would help. Of course it would. How could Jessie think things would actually get better here? Why would I even humour that optimistic junk? After all this time, I should know better. I should know how these people operate. I should know every thoughtless blank tells themselves they aren't the problem, and that one slip up won't hurt anything. How the old men grumble about permits and feel entitled enough to throw their empty cans of beers into the lake because a sliver of their 6 figures are tossed to us, like tossing leftovers. Okay. It's not enough that I'm beholden to the greed and laziness of bureaucrats and the drawing masses. The land has to be too. Its vivid lushness, airbrushed with greens and yellows, and on these dewy autumn mornings the brown and orange of harvest. The salt and pepper mountain tops, with their rushing waterfalls. From the impenetrable rookies to the harsh beauty of the Badlands to the sparkling shores of the Pacific and Atlantic, it's just another resource to exploit, to profit off of, to enjoy then abandoned. If that's how it's going to be, if that's the world we've built, let me be the first to try and knock it down. When I got to the camp, the brat pack is huddled in front of a tent. It shakes and blows with the wind, held down only by stakes driven into the ground. They speak in anxious whispers, unaware of my presence. The kid in the green jacket puffs away at a cigarette, combing his fingers through the messy hair. His GF is the first to see me charging over. She mumbles his name, but by the time he notices me, I'm already up in his dumb face. I nab him by the collar and yank him from the safety of his group. I twist his shirt so my knuckles press. I go, oh,
I've
gosh.
met a lot of idiots on this job, but you must be a real protege.
Like the splitting of the Red Sea, his friends clear a path around him.
Whoa, take it easy, lady.
Oh yeah, take it easy, like you just started a fire and you're the one who's trying to tell us to take it easy.
This is assault! Oh my god, do you know how unethical this is?
Yeah, almost as bad as arson. Wanna report it?
That shuts her up. I'm not going to lose any sleep because I dangled my slice of authority over these idiots. Not now.
What was rattling in that skull of yours, huh? You a firebug? This what gets you off? Or are you just stupid?
This moron, with his ironed out, wrinkleless brain, can he find it in himself to stutter as he shakes a pack of cigarettes bounce around in his breast pocket?
That's what I thought.
I dug him closer. He swallows, his Adam's apple brushing against my fist.
Listen here, you little shit.
Wow, I'm not going to say that out loud. Finally, he breaks out of his catatonic state and struggles to pull away. This just pees me off much more. I snatch the lit cigarette from his mouth and crumble it up in my hand.
I said listen.
The cigarette singles my palm. I hardly feel it, thanks to the adrenaline. Maybe this is what finally puts the fear of me into him, because he gasps audibly. The last of the smoke wisps out of his mouth.
Do you know how sick I am of this? How often I have to sit by and watch people like you destroy good things? Does it even register? Is it some kind of game?
Okay, technically this is a game like what we're playing right now, but this scenario is not. My throat clenches and my eyes steam with tears. I blink it away, but my unclouded vision only shows my fist clenched in his shirt. There's an awkward silence as his friends glance away. Even he starts to wince, but I only grip tighter.
What gives you the right to burn the last few pieces of dignity this scarred husk of a rock has left? To raise any proof that we were once humble enough to live and breathe and die with the world we got dropped into? Before we got so tied up with ourselves, we felt the urge to make a distinction.
His eyes scoop up ahead and linger there.
Answer me! Tell me I'm not just a bandage for your arrogance!
I was just trying to start a campfire with a cigarette, okay?
A bird chows. For a moment, all I hear is wind. Tears fall absent-mindedly from my cheeks. A campfire with a cigarette. 4 years of pent-up anger, forgotten passion, frustration and confusion. It all comes rocketing out of me as I swing my fist to his face. Wow. A hand grips my arm before I can connect.
That's enough, Eve.
I spin around, seething with fury. Yosemite stares down at me, a little worse for wear, but tall and straight like a sequoia. She towers over campers, they look like shrubs in comparison.
You've already chewed them out. They were just about to leave anyway.
Her voice is stern and certain. She scans the group of campers, her steely gaze punctured by the residue of sweat that sticks to her cheeks. They each give an affirming nod. The kid in the green jacket wriggles out of my death grip, and the whole lot of them scramble further into the camp.
Why the hell would you do that? They're just going to call...
Aww. What is this now?
Thank you. I needed to hear that.
What?
Her voice is a whisper that caresses my ear.
You've done enough. At least for today.
I've done enough? I hear that and go limp. Over her shoulder in the thick of the woods I can see the cabin. Nestled under the pines like a forgotten paradise. The citrus smell of lemongrass sticks to Yosemite's jacket. Her skin, while no longer feverish, is warm like an embrace from a blanket. The image of the cabin blurs as my breath shakes, and for the first time in maybe 4 years, the tears aren't anger, or frustrated, or confused. Only sad. I can finally let them be sad.
I just wanted to protect what I love.
Yosemite gasps, as if her breath has been sucked away. She pushes my head down, pressing against her shoulder. She strokes my... Okay. I cry into her jacket, the tears dampening the hide and leather.
You're a fool.
She chuckles, and I can hear the soft grin in her voice.
But maybe we need more fools.
The tears keep coming, so much I think I might choke on them. With each breath I draw and every sob I take, my throat gets tighter. Maybe it's trying to rein it all out after all this time. To be commended like that means more to me than approval. Or a pat on the back from Jessie. It's validation, it's acknowledgement. That even if what I'm doing is meaningless, I've still devoted myself to it and suffered. And maybe that suffering isn't entirely worthless after all. And as Yosemite holds me, while the wind howls through the branches and the lurks whistle above us, I start to think maybe it's worth it to hold on to and suffer for just a bit longer. Tree hugger.
Just listening to all that gives me a headache. How on earth did you find so much trouble on your first day?
I don't know, Jessie, you tell us that. But we're going to end things off, folks, here and now, as the dialogue has changed from our wonderful fairy friends to another human being that is sane in the head, somewhat. But thank you so much for watching, folks, and we shall see each other on the next time of National Park Girls, where Hopefully we'll be finding an understanding between Eve and Yosemite. They're getting better terms, but it's still going to take a while before they come to terms with one another. They're both opposites, but at the same time are both very similar in their own ways. Thank you so much for watching and take care of yourselves.